Shalom, this is Onieh, and we are here once again to study Hebrew, specifically biblical Hebrew, as well as the Hebrew that came before it. Today, we're going to be focusing on adjectives, and we might touch upon some other subjects, like it's possible we might look at participles, and we might look at case distinction, how that works in Hebrew, because Hebrew does cases differently than it originally did. So we'll try to take a look into that stuff. But adjectives will be our primary focus initially, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I'm going to share my screen, and to give us a kind of a baseline, I'm going to start with this website. We use this website in one of my earlier videos, one of my prior videos, HebrewForChristians.com. Now, the reason sometimes it's good to use this is because they kind of succinctly give you the rules of Hebrew in a way that doesn't overwhelm you with unnecessary information. And because, like I said, there's not a lot of stuff in the other grammar books about adjectives, I feel like we can use this page here as kind of like a baseline for adjectives, and then see if the book, the grammar book, offers any further information about adjectives. So, basically, Hebrew adjectives function very similar to English adjectives, and English adjectives would be something along the line of, let's say, you're a good person, good person. The word good is an adjective. If you're a bad person, the word bad is an adjective. Now, the way it works in Hebrew is you say the person, the individual first, the noun first, followed by the adjective. Whereas in English, you do the adjective first, followed by the noun. But the best way to understand what you're actually saying in terms of adjectives are, like, let's say the good person. What you're saying is the person, the good one. The person, comma, that is the good one. So the person, which person? Oh, the good one. That's what adjectives do. Adjectives tell you who or what the individual is. They're helping descriptions. So we'll take a look here. Properties of adjectives. Yeah, that's what I was just saying about the other one for good. So you got big man, holy people, great nation. Big, holy, great, those are all adjectives. And what I just said, English adjectives appear before the noun, but in Hebrew, they say adjectives often appear after. I'm going to go so far as to say they always do. I don't really think they ever come before, but it's possible there might be a rare exception that I'm not aware of. So we'll see. Perhaps the grammar book will give some exceptions. Like nouns, adjectives have certain properties. So adjectives have gender. In Hebrew, a masculine noun requires a masculine adjective. A feminine noun requires a feminine adjective. In other words, an adjective must agree with its noun and gender. That way you know that they're being combined into a single unit. Basically, an adjective is like being linked together, and it forms a unit. So that unit is supposed to have the same gender. Number is the property that indicates whether one or more than one object is referenced when using the word. Okay, we knew that, but let's see. So also, an adjective must agree with its noun and number. Plural nouns require plural adjectives, and singular nouns require singular adjectives. Note that adjectives that are plural in form are singular in translation, like because in English we do adjectives differently. So we say, like if you were to say the tall boys, tall is singular, boys is plural. But in Hebrew, you basically would say boys, talls, boys, talls. But really what you're saying is boys, the tall ones, boys, tall ones. And, comma, who's being talked about? The tall ones. So boys, talls would essentially be what you're saying in Hebrew. But in English, you do it singular. So when we translate adjectives, part of what I want to do for my translation of the Bible is be super literal, much more than normal. However, with things like this, I feel like we don't necessarily need to go that literal and make the adjectives plural. Because what translation is all about is the basic meaning of the original is being conveyed in the other language. And so all that this is adjective. So how do you write an adjective in Hebrew and how do you write it in English? When you translate it into English, it makes sense to write the adjective the way you would write it in English. Unless for some reason, maybe poetry requires it to have a plural as well. So maybe I would translate it differently for certain select passages that have poetic necessity. But otherwise, I'm inclined to think that I would translate singular adjective, even though it's a plural adjective, just because that's how adjectives work in English, and everybody understands what's being said in English when we do that. We understand that the singular adjective is referring to the plural noun, the same as it works in Hebrew, where the plural adjective refers to the plural noun. So we don't need to be super literal in that sense. When I speak of being super literal in my translation goals for my Bible project, it's going to be more about the meaning of words. And even then, I might not be as literal as I could be. Like, how I've talked about before, how the word sun means construction. However, it's going to be awkward to whenever you're saying, like if you basically say construction of God or construction of David, it sounds weird. So we don't want it to sound weird either. So there's got to be some balance in the middle where it doesn't sound too weird, but it also captures the core meaning of the word. So one way we could do this actually, one way I could do in terms of not translating it as construction, but I would translate it consistently a single way. I would try to search for a single English translation to cover all the bases. That would be my goal in terms of being more literal. So let me look at the word sun, for example. Oops. Okay. Yeah, so we take a look here. They say it's translated as sun 2,978 times, children 1,568 times, old 135 times. First, it's not really being translated like that, but it's being, I don't think anyway, it's being combined with like two words. So let's check the old one. What's it actually saying? Okay, Noah was 500 years old. So let's take a look at that. Okay. And Noah was a son of 500 years. A son of 500 years. So that actually sounds weird, right? A son of 500 years. That sounds that doesn't convert to English well. So we would try to have some type of meaning that would convey the sense of construction. So maybe something along the lines of let me think for a second. And Noah was a it's hard to think of these on the spot because they actually require a lot of careful thought as to a good, more literal rendering. But it would be kind of like something like, and Noah was becoming, maybe you would say becoming, or developing into. Basically, you're basically just trying to emphasize that it's construction. So he's being built up. As you get older, you continue to be built, constructed more and more. You get older, you develop over time. So, and Noah was so like I said, it could be something like Noah was becoming 500 years old, or something along those lines that convey a process that it is shaping something into being. But yeah, so obviously translating it as son there sounds weird. Noah was a son of 500 years. But what does the Greek say? Noah whoops, that's a year. Okay, Noah okay, I think it just says, and Noah was 500 years. I think that's all it says. So the Greek doesn't even translate the son part because it sounds weird. But yeah, see, it's saying here, Noah was 600 years old. Abraham was 75 years old. Fourscore and 6 years old. All these examples, it uses the word ben for son. And Ishmael, his son, was a son of 13 years. You could maybe keep son there because it fits the context okay. Like you know what it's saying. Ishmael, his son, was a son of 13 years. That doesn't sound too bad. But let's see. What was another example? You've got stranger. Let's see that. Okay, no stranger shall eat thereof for the Passover. But it doesn't say that. What does it actually say? This is the ordinance of the Passover. Every son of a stranger, or every strange son, every foreign son, basically, shall not eat in it, or shall not eat of it, basically. So every son of a stranger, but they simply translate it as there's so no stranger. So they cut out the son of. Let's see. Whoops. Anyways, so yeah. So in terms of literal translation, I got to be flexible for it to make sense, but also I will do my best to keep to the core meaning of the words. Nouns can be either definite by taking the definite article or being a proper noun. That's what we talked about last week, or indefinite. Adjectives, attributive adjectives must agree with their nouns indefiniteness. But it sounds like it's saying if it's not attributive adjective, then it doesn't have to. So that's a slight difference that we might have to look more into what that means. The reason there's not as much information about adjectives is basically adjectives are nouns. So everything that's nouns are covered in, adjectives are also covered in. So like the endings for adjectives parallel the endings you've already learned for nouns. So learning the inflections of adjectives or the endings for adjectives is relatively easy. On the other hand, since Hebrew adjectives share the same endings as nouns, they can be difficult to recognize at times. Sometimes it's not always clear if it's an adjective or not. And also, sometimes adjectives can function substantively, that is, as adjectival nouns. As an example, you can have a good person, right? But you can also have good. You could say, good says hi. In Hebrew, you could say, good says hi. That means the good one says hi. But you would just say, good says hi in Hebrew. So we can use adjectives as nouns as well by themselves. That's why adjectives are kind of like a blurry line, because they are nouns, but they also modify other nouns. Okay, so attributive usage. There are 4 basic ways adjectives are used that directly modify a noun. They're called attributive because they attribute a certain characteristic to a noun. Predicate use. When you say the boy is tall, you are predicating or ascribing the quality predicate adjectives use the word is with the subject, with the adjective, to form the predicate of a complete clause. In Hebrew, predicate adjectives appear before the noun and agree in gender and number, but not definiteness. Predicate adjectives never take the definite article. Okay, so when you're using the adjective as a predicate, you have to do the adjective first. So you switch the order. So like say the good person, but if you want to say the person if you want to say the person is good, you in Hebrew you say good is the person. So here you say holy the day. You're saying holy is the day. You're not saying the holy day. You're declaring the day is holy. Holy is the day. And in terms of translation, like, see, they translate it as the day is holy. But if you're doing a literal translation, it actually it sounds fine the other direction. Holy is the day. Like, it doesn't sound that weird, right? You know, it all depends. I'll as I do the translation for the Bible project, I might change the way I do the translation. So maybe I'll do what they do and say the day is holy instead of the holy is the day. At the end of the day, it's the same basic meaning, so it doesn't really matter which direction you translate it. Unless it's like for poetry purposes. So substantive usage, using adjective as a noun. Like I just said, the good one. So so they say, for example, you could say the tall are boys. The word tall could mean tall ones. And substantive adjectives always have a definite article. Interesting. So they always do, apparently. If you're using an adjective as the primary noun, it's going to have a the in front of it. Adjectives may be used to make comparative statements. In English, we do this by adding er or est to the end of an adjective, round, rounder, roundest. In Hebrew, a construction with the preposition from is used to make comparatives. So, min ehakel, and no, let's see, how would I say this? How would this be said? Okay, the first part is ebait, and that means the house. And then the second word is gedol. They have it as gedol. I would have rendered it, if I was to, doing my pronunciation rules, it would have been gadil, but they have it as gedol. So that means the house big, or the big house. And then you say from and the tent. So that's I think it's ekehel. That's how I think it would be said. Ekehel. And so the way this would be translated, I believe, is okay. I think what it's saying is the house is bigger than the tent. I believe that's what it's saying. And the reason it uses from, it's just kind of like telling you the direction where it's springing off. Like Like when we say greater than, we're using than to mean more or less, but we're using it as a base point, a starting point. So I'm smarter than so-and-so means so-and-so is the starting point, and then when you go above it, you become smarter. The more you go above it, the more smart you are. So you're coming off from it. So you're coming from it. So coming from it, the adjective is coming from it in that sense. So so from the tent, house gets big. And basically comparing it to the tent, the house is big, and it's coming off from it that it has bigness. Now they say, compared to some other languages, Hebrew uses very few adjectives, but I don't think it's very few. I think there's a good number of them. But that's also because Hebrew doesn't have a lot of words anyways. Like Hebrew has very few words overall. So it says in part because nouns in the construct state are often used in place of adjectives, because Hebrew often uses participles in place of adjectives. Construct state is what we talked about before, the of something else. So for example, construct state, you have, let's say you have the phrase good person, right? In Hebrew, as we said, to be person good, but you could also do person of goodness. Construct state, person of goodness. So that's why sometimes they render adjectives instead as construct state, because it means the same thing, essentially the same thing. All right, now it's weird. They don't have like a next page. Like usually there should be like a page to go to next. Oh, here's return. I guess you just have to return. So we got some vocabulary here. Great or big, gadol. Zaken is old. Hadish, new. Hazik, strong. Hakim, wise. Yafa, beautiful. Mahid, very. Either Yasher or Isher means upright. Kadosh or Kadosh, holy. Kathin, small. Ra, evil. And Dhamim, perfect or complete. Good is tav, and much or many is rav. Well, let me see what that Facebook thing is. Okay, irrelevant. Something else, it doesn't matter. Okay, let me go back to where we were. All right. So the same thing as we talked about for nouns, for gender purposes, and singular versus plural. Singular has no ending for masculine, but it has the hey ending for feminine. Remember, the original ending for feminine nouns was tav in ancient times, but it became a hey. So that's the same for adjectives as well. Plural is im for masculine, and ot or oath for feminine. So here we have these endings are okay. They're identical to the regular noun endings. So here are the inflections for the adjective tov or tav, which means good. Masculine tav, it means a masculine noun that is good. Tava or tavith is a feminine noun that is good. And then tavim, masculine nouns that are good. And tabuth is feminine plural nouns that are good. So here we have with the same word. So here's good daughter. So we have bint, bint tava or bint tavith, which is daughter good one, the good daughter, versus good son is bin tav. And then we have benuth tavuth, which is good daughters. Now, traditional pronunciation instead of u would probably be a o or a a. So you'd have benat or benot. But I'm using the u pronunciation because wa originally had a u sound. And then good sons, banim, tavim. Then we have city. The agreement between a noun and adjective must occur even if the noun uses irregular endings. For example, even though city has masculine endings, it's a feminine word. We covered this last time in one of the prior, not last time, but one of the prior videos we did, how a masculine noun could be feminine in meaning due to how it's used. So that typically is for very specific nouns, though, like different types of nouns and if you're confused about that and you want to remember why, go to the video in my playlist on my channel, YouTube channel, and go to the one that talks about gender, and it explains why some words can be masculine in form but feminine in function. And I will hopefully do another short video independently just to kind of give you the short version of how gender works. So if you don't want to watch the whole thing again or wade through a video for the information, you could always just wait for the short version to come out if you forget why masculine nouns can sometimes have feminine function. But yeah, so this would be, it would be oyer tova or toveth. And plural. Oh yeah, so see right here, it has a yod in the singular, but there's no yod in the plural. So I think what that means is that I think they're pronouncing it as like with a. Remember how I said ion actually has a guttural sound? So you've got the you've got the like a g at the beginning. So it'd be like gur, GHIR, gur. So gur tova. And down here it'd be garim tovo. But if this was not a GH, it'd be pronounced as a urim, ugrim. And then good father is Avtov, and good fathers, Avoth, Tavim, or Avuth. Now they say patterns of inflection where there's no vowel change. Now this has to do with vowel markings and how they pronounce in their dialect, the traditional Jewish dialect. So they say, so if you add endings to, typically if it's a singular syllable or two letter word or a single syllable word, and you add an ending to it, the sound doesn't change, no vowel change. However, it claims here that many adjectives that have a kametz or tser vowel as their first syllable undergo proprotonic reduction when plural endings are added to the word. What's that? Many nouns that have a kametz or tser vowel as their first syllable undergo proprotonic reduction when the plural endings are added to the word. Devar. The first syllable is reduced to sheva. So I think it becomes a de. So I don't know about how that works in original Hebrew, if there's certain rules when you add endings, if it like add plural or whatever, if it changes how you pronounce it. I have to do some research on that. For adjectives whose roots end in hey, when the endings are added to the root, the hey drops off the word. So notice here, you got the masculine, yafa or ifa. The feminine is also the same. However, originally in the original Hebrew, it would have been yafa or ifa for masculine, but it would have been yafith or ifith. So there would have been a distinction in the original Hebrew, whereas in biblical Hebrew, there's no distinction in the written text. They make the distinction with their vowel markings and based on context. But for plural, there is a distinction. So it's a yaphim or ephim, and for feminine, yafoth or ephuf. It says a geminate adjective has a hidden twin letter that does not appear in the masculine singular form. The hidden letter reappears in the plural form with a strong dagesh mark. Let me see. Oh, so yeah. So the root, this is what I talked about. How 2-letter words may actually have 3-letter words originally. So they say the root actually is resh bet bet. But the double bet does not show up in the masculine singular. But in the plural, it comes back. The reason being because there's 2 syllables. So let me let's see if I can oh yeah, I remember now. I could just type it for you guys. So let's do this annotation. All right. So with 1 syllable, you've got RB, right? So RB, 1 syllable. So you would pronounce that as Rav, or essentially as there's 2 B's there, but it's only 1 syllable. The 2 B's combine into a single block, just like the English word all. And then when you have another word always, it can be dropped, right? But so whether there's 2 or 1, it's the same syllable. All and all are the same, mean the same thing, and they're the same pronunciation, same syllable. So RB and RBB are having the same pronunciation. However, when you have a second syllable, the B does double time. It basically gets split and covers both. So you've got RB and BIM. So you have Rav. So Rav, Vim, Ravim. Rav, Vim, but it's only written in the text, it's only written as a single B, but the pronunciation implies that there are 2 B's. Yeah, so there's that. And then let's look at the attributive usage. Biyeth, Gadol. Biyeth Gadol means good. No, it means yeah, good. No, not good. What am I saying? Big house. They say, since both the noun and adjective match in gender, number, and definiteness, we translate the phrase as a big house. And the next example is Ebieth Gedol. Ebieth Gedol. And that means the big house. Then we have Ebiathim, Gedalim. Ebiathim, Gedalim. And that means the big houses. Oh, well, this is off. Okay, so then we have paradigm here. Good queen. So that's Malika. Originally would have been Malakith. And then Tava originally would have been Tavith. So Malika, or Malakith Tavith. And that's good queen. And good queens is Malakuth Tavuth. Good queens. Malektav, good king. And Malakim Tavim, good kings. And then when you have the added in front of it, you've got Ed Maleketh Et Tavith, the good queen. And the good queens is Emalakuth Et Tavuth. And the good king is Emalek Et Tav. The good kings, Emalakim Et Tavim. They say they have additional examples. Now, the word for fathers has the feminine ending, even though it's a masculine noun. So that's why it takes the masculine adjectives. So for the wise fathers, it's ehavot or ehavuth. So ehavuth ehakemim. And for David, it's so I think in like Biblical Hebrew they pronounce it as Dawid, but originally it would have been pronounced Duwid with a U sound. So Duwid Ezakin, David the Old. But they translate it as Old David. Because you can't say the David. That doesn't make sense, right? So that's why in English we do adjectives a little bit differently. So they translate it as Old David instead of the Old David. Well, I would probably render it as David the Old. David the Old One. Or David the Elder. And then we have Mizraim, which is Egypt. Mizraim. Gedalith. That's Great Egypt. Substantive, no, sorry, we're supposed to do predicate. Predicate usage must appear before, wait. They say appear before or after the noun they modify. I thought they said it was going to be before. I guess because it takes it takes the definite article, whereas the other one doesn't, you know that it's predicate. Because if it was a regular adjective, they'd both have the same definite article or not. Because one has a definite article and the other doesn't, that means it's a predicate. And predicate, again, is simply, instead of saying good person, it's person is good or good is person. So here we have the man old. We're saying the man is old. And then old is the man. So that both of those work. Both of those are valid in Hebrew. So then they give an example of an attributive again to give a distinction. So these first two are predicate ones. The man is old and old is the man. But then this is the man, the old one. So that's saying the old man. That's a regular attributive adjective. So here we have the queen is good. It's Emaleketh Tavith. And then you can also say the same thing. You could say Tavith Emeleketh. And so in this case, let's see here. So I guess the adjective doesn't take if it's a predicate. The regular noun does, but the adjective doesn't. Yeah. The queens are good. It would be Emalekuth Tavuth. And also you could say Tavuth Emalekuth. The king is good. It can be either Emalek Tav or Tav Emalek. Kings are good. Emalakim Tavim, or also kings are good. Tavim Emalakim. And it tells us that an indefinite noun with an indefinite adjective could be either predicate or attributive. So if it simply says good person, it could be either good person or good is person. So context will determine which that is. So here, Ebenim Hakemim. So that's the sons are wise ones. If it were saying the wise sons, you would say Ebanim ehakimim. But instead, it doesn't have at the second word. That makes it into the predicate. So the sons are wise. Here they say, Asha Zakiana. It means woman old. It could either mean old woman or a woman is old. Both of those could be valid depending on context. Here, interestingly, it says you can have two adjectives combined to form a compound predicate adjective. Good and upright is Yahuwah. Then it says in this example, notice that there are two adjectives that are both modifying the same noun. Old is the man and heavy. The man is old and heavy. That's how they would translate it. Although I wonder why they render it like that. Well, they could have done the man first. The man is old and heavy, but they have old first. So I don't quite get why that is, but I guess in Hebrew you can do it either way. It doesn't matter. Comparative. We have from. Now, biblical Hebrew, it's just mem nun. Here they're showing a yod as well for some reason. But you can also do just the mem. This is mn, but you can also just do the m. So let's see here. Good wisdom from gold. Is when min is used this way, think of it as meaning than regarding the word that follows it. So, tave hachema min zahev. Min zahev. So, good is no. So how would they? Hold on. Okay, they would translate it predicatively. Wisdom is good. So they would render it as, well, let's see. Good is wisdom more than gold, or wisdom is good more than gold. They say using, literally the sentence reads, wisdom is good from gold. Using proper English would render this as wisdom is better than gold. They say the adjective tov changes in meaning from good to better by means of this construction. That's the way they're translating it. But I would still render it something like good is wisdom more than. That's how I would translate it. More than. But again, it's the whole idea that gold as a baseline, coming off from it, wisdom is superior to it. It's good. Wisdom is good more than gold. So as wisdom comes off from it, it gets more good and good. Now, notice that here it has mem, whereas here it has mem noon. That's because it has the definite article. When it has the definite article the, mem noon is used. When there's no definite article, mem is used, and it might be also depending. There might be like if there's a vowel, it might also use it. I'll have to see about that. But mem noon is the original. Noon gets dropped due to what we've talked about many times in these videos, where the sound of noon gets lost. It becomes silent because they say it so fast, and it drops over time. So ebanim or ebenim, gedalim, min ehavot. Ehavuth. The reason I say it multiple times is because I'm trying to get the pronunciation right based on how I understand pronunciation is supposed to be, but I get confused because I've learned other pronunciations, like a standard pronunciation of the Jews. Like they say oat or oath. So avoth or avot is fathers, but I would say oo. So that's why I say the same word multiple times sometimes, because I'm experimenting with the pronunciation. The sentence literally reads, the sons are big from the fathers. They say they would translate it as the sons are bigger than the fathers. But like I said, I would render it instead as the sons are big more than the fathers. And also what's kind of cool, this is just coincidence, by the way. But what's kind of cool is that the way I render it actually kind of sounds similar to the Hebrew. So you have the Hebrew mn, man, or min, man or min. That means from or whatever, right? But they're saying you should translate it as the sons are bigger than the fathers. But notice the way I do it, the sons are big more than the fathers. What's cool about more than is we have M and N. You know, so more than. So it's so I like the way I translate it better, just because it sounds fine and it's more faithful to the text, what it actually says, and it's kind of a cool coincidence where it connects with the whole MN word. All right, and then we have superlative usage of the adjective. English, we do est at the end. You can also use the adverb most to form superlative. The most beautiful girl, the most holy of holies. They say in Hebrew, the superlative is often formed by simply using the definite article. I'm not, that sounds suspicious. I don't know why that would be. The word above shows a definite adjective. In the proper context, this could be functioning substantively, attributively, or as a superlative. If the context indicates superlative usage, the word would be translated as the most beautiful. Again, I'm not convinced that that's actually correct, but that could be. I'm going to look up in that grammar book to see. Because if that is true, then the grammar book would probably corroborate that. Okay, so here they have from the small to the great. So I can understand why they translate as the smallest to the greatest. But you don't need to. All you have to do is just say from the small to the great, and that makes perfect sense in English. Here's use of the verb machid. Good, very, or means very good. They say, depending on the context, we could translate this phrase as very good or the best. Again, I'm not really convinced that best would be a faithful translation, but we'll do some research on that and see. Then we have holy of the holies, or it could be, okay, so yeah, this is a superlative, can also be formed by construct chain. They would translate the words as the most holy of holies or the holiest. Again, I don't know if that's the best way to translate it. I think the way that is regularly translated is good. Holy of holy, or holy of the holies. Let's see, demonstrative adjectives. So this and these can be used as adjectives, I think they're saying. They also are saying that on a technical basis, the definite article the is actually a form of demonstrative adjective. Because you're like combining the word, you're adding to the word dog the word the. So in a sense, that's an adjective, is what they're saying. So feminine, masculine, this is ze. Feminine is zath. Plural for masculine is alla, and feminine is also alla, and it means these. So it's the same for both genders. And then for that, those is ua for masculine and aya for feminine. And then m or emma for those, and n or enna for those. And they say these forms are identical to third person personal pronouns. We've talked about that before. So depending on context, it will be either that or those, or it would be they, or he or she. It all depends on the context. Or it. So it says, when a demonstrative adjective is used to directly modify a noun, it is said to be used attributively. So if it's an attributive, it follows the noun they modify, just like regular adjectives, and they have to agree with the noun they modify in gender, number, and definiteness, just like regular adjectives. So some examples. Ehasha is this woman, or more literally, the woman that is this one. En nashim ehale, the woman that are these. Haish eza, the man that is this one. Ehanashim ehala, the men that are these. And then hasha eheya is the woman that is that one. And nashim ehene, the women that are those ones. And yeah, and then same for the masculine. You've got the place that is this one, the land that is this, the words that are these, the man that is good, the man that is the good one, that is this one, or the good man that is this good man. So you can have, it looks like you can have two adjectives potentially. This good man, this good Torah, those good woman, this righteous judge, that new book. The book, the new one, that is that one. Says the demonstrative adjective will occur after any other attributive adjectives that might also modify the noun in a phrase. Now, if it's a predicate, it appears before the noun. But so it agrees with the noun, but not indefiniteness. So this is the woman. These are the women. This is the man. These are the men. She, they say that is, but I wonder why you can't just say she. She is the woman. And they are the woman. He is the man. They are the men. You have similar examples they have. This is the house. This is the man, the good one. So here, that's interesting. You have an attributive. No, sorry. You have a predicate and an attributive. So this is the man that is good, or this is the good man. These are the men, the good ones, the good men. That is the word, the good one. These are the words. This is the day. Yahuwah Um, Yahuwah is he the God. But here Yahuwah comes first. So that's interesting. So maybe nouns take precedence and come before it all. It looks like. Names, I mean. Yeah, so names take precedence. And they say there's a distinction between near and remote. So this and these are used for near things, and that and those are used for farther things away, things that are farther away. So we have word pairs. When two or more nouns appear together, they are said to be in a construct relation. Nouns in construct relationship are never separated, but always stand as a distinct grammatical unit. Therefore, if either of the nouns is modified by an adjective, the adjective is placed after the pair in order to keep the nouns together. So, house of Israel is right here. But then you have the great house of Israel. You would have house of Israel, the great one. So basically, you right here. Oops, sorry. You're having, it's not house of Israel the great. Instead, it's house of Israel as a single block, the great. So what you were really saying is like house of Israel is treated as if it's a single word. House of Israel, the good, or excuse me, not the good, the great. So the great house of Israel. I keep saying good instead of great. That's because the word in Hebrew is gadol. So it sounds similar to the English word, which is throwing me off. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Steve. Adjectives match the nouns they describe in gender, always. Yep. House of Israel the Great. Okay, in this example, the adjective is feminine singular and therefore modifies the word Israel. We would translate this phrase as the house of great Israel. But because of that, it makes me think then that it's actually ambiguous. So if you see two words of construct, the adjective could be applied to either the first or the second. But in either case, the adjective still has to come after. So let's see. Malaki Ehir. Kings of the city. or the kings of the city. Okay, so here we have kings of the city, the evil one. So because of this, we take a look here for a sec. We have kings, the city, the evil. But it's kings of the city, the evil. But it has the city, the word city is feminine, and the word evil is feminine in this instance. Therefore, it is kings of the evil city. However, if you do the same thing if you have on the key then what was it? Okay, so then if it's so here, this would be I think you'd have to make it plural. So kings of the city, the evil ones, which would make it mean the evil kings of the city. All right. And then, oops. Okay. Yep, I just did it right here. The evil kings of the city. And then I talked about how there could be ambiguity. In both system examples given above, it's easy to see which noun in the word pair is modified by the adjective, since the adjective matches the noun in gender, number, and definiteness. However, there are cases where it is not so clear. For example, consider the following. Bani ehamim etavim. So it could be sons of the good people, or it could be the good sons of the people. Okay, so son of the woman that is this one. Voice of God, the living. Day of Yahuwah, the great. In this case, it's not the great Yahuwah, it's the great day. Participles, we'll be talking about another time, but those are basically a mix between verbs and nouns. I think this is just an overall review, so it's not any new information here. But yeah, so that's basically the basics of adjectives. So now let's check out this this PDF file of the grammar book from the scholars to see if there's any extra information That's important for us. So it's gonna be in, let's see, what were the forms? It was 86A, 87C, 141, and 50B. So what's 50? Okay, these are participles. So participles with somewhat, oh, okay, verbal adjectives, basically. That goes with participles. So we'll not be doing 50B. Then let's check out 86 and 87-ish, and then we will check out 141. Let's see this around. Okay, it's like 240 and 520. Let's try that. All right. So I'm guessing which page it's going to be on. Okay. All right. Well, this is back. Okay, so okay, because the Hebrew noun has lost the final vowels, which indicated cases, there is no declension. In original Hebrew, there was declension. That means special endings that tell you whether it's subject, object, or genitive, possessive. That's what original Hebrew had, but biblical Hebrew does not have it because it got dropped out over time. I think they said C as well. Adjectives are used in certain forms only. They say generally speaking, but it's not hard, fast rule. Forms with one vowel and those with performative, that's like a prefix, are not used for adjectives. They say the forms which we find used for adjectives are the simple forms with two primitive short vowels, and those with an etymologically short first vowel and an etymologically long second vowel. So you've got this actually makes very strange, like this doesn't really make sense. Look, it's the same word and it's the same adjective. Oh yeah, I remember why this is now. Because they're just using this, they're using this as a model for all words. So ketal is being used to as like in mathematics how they use letters to be symbols for any number type of thing. It's kind of like what's going on here. They're using these letters to convey all possibilities of adjectives. So Q represents the first letter of a word, T represents the second letter, and L, Lamed, represents the third letter in a word. So yeah. Let's see here. All right. So I'm going to now go to 520 because that one actually has some actual information about adjectives. Um, okay. The adjective, comparative, and superlative. Adjectives are relatively rare in Hebrew. So this isn't, I was skeptical that they were saying that, but this grammar book is saying the same thing. I suspect, in original Hebrew, that was not the case. It was much more widespread. So it says, even when an appropriate adjective exists, we sometimes find the adjectival idea expressed otherwise. Like we talked about, the construct state can be used to convey the same adjective idea. A genitive expressing a quality is often used. So a seed of the royalty, or the throne of royalty. Okay, and then let's see here. Position of the adjective is normally after the noun. Or after a genitive group, like we talked about. It says the only certain exception is the adjective rav, which means many, not in the sense of great, which sometimes precedes the noun. That may be because it's being used to mean is. Many ones are hunters, or many are hunters, potentially. I don't know. I'd have to look it up to see the context. So it says normally an adjective cannot directly qualify a proper noun. So if you want to say Nineveh the Great, you can't say Nineveh the Great. You have to say Nineveh the Great City. Whereas English, you could say Nineveh the Great, but that's not how it works in Hebrew. Okay, so they also say here, adjectives are commonly constructed on determinate substantives, and this is a way of expressing the superlative. So the young of his sons, and they say that means the youngest of his sons. But basically what you're saying is the young one of his sons. So of all his sons, it's the young one. The young one meaning the youngest one. Like it says in English, we have more or less than, but Hebrew it basically just has more than. Like, so in English, we might say, you are smart more than so and so. But you could also say, you are smart, but less than so and so. Whereas in Hebrew, it seems like it's saying that it doesn't have the distinction between more and less. It just has So it might be like, you know, you're more bad. You're bad more than so and so, or you're good more than so and so. But like you were saying, I am good but less than so and so, you might have to word it as so and so is good more than me. Um, let me hold on a second here. So it says that sometimes there's comparisons where there's only one comparison rather than two. So I'd have to check out an example like that. Let's see. Second Samuel 14:32. Good for me. So let's see. Yeah, I'll have to look at that more. Um, says the same construction with min is used with stative verbs, which express an adjectival idea. I think stative refers to the participle thing I was talking about. So and he was tall, or he was raised high more than all the people. So it can be used with verbs as well, the min word. So this right here, elliptical comparison, too much for, it says, it is heavy more than more than, I don't know what this word is. Hold on. It's not manna. Um, I don't know what that word means. Whoops. Oh man. All right, let me try this. Genesis 26:16. Maybe that'll tell me what the word is. Okay. And said Abimelech unto Itzek, or Ejek, go from go from new. That looks like with, the word with, or maybe it's people. Oh, it's probably people. No, wait, hold on. Let me see this. With, yeah, it's with. So go from with us. Go from being with us. For you are mighty. All right, so what is this? Um, See, the part that's confusing me is you take a look and you see two mems. So, and you are, for you are very mighty more than us. But why are there two mems? Meme. They say it means meme. Okay, well, let me see this. Okay, it says preposition suffix. I'm really clueless as to why there's two mems for this. I got to look that up. I don't think I'm going to figure it out tonight. So that's going to require some more research for us to figure out why that is. But it basically means very for, so for very you all right, for you are very mighty more than us. But again, we got to figure out what this means. So we'll try to figure that out some other time. From the small and unto the great. That's the example that we saw in the other page. The absolute superlative or elative is expressed by the adjective Genesis 1:31. See, I don't think I'm agreeing with what they're saying here. They're basically trying to imply that God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was the best. That's what they're saying it means, but I don't agree. I think it just means it was very good. Not that it was the best, but that it was very good. It says repetition of an adjective can serve a similar purpose. Let's check that out. 1 Samuel 2:3. Do not do not more, I guess. Talk proudly or exceedingly proud. So it says, some nouns, such as El and Elohim or Elohim, in the genitive case can serve as intensifiers. So very high mountains can be meaning basically like divine, like in a high sense. The divine mountains. And the divine cedar trees. And the divine panic. 1 Samuel 14:15. And it was a divine trembling. You could almost render it as supreme. It was a supreme trembling because, you know, God is like the ultimate. Wait a minute. This one doesn't make sense. Song of Solomon 8. No, wait. 1 Samuel 26:12. For a deep sleep of Yahuwah fell upon them. They're saying that this means it just means a very deep sleep. They're taking the name of Yahuwah and saying that just means very. I don't agree with that. I like how the King James translates it. Deep sleep from Yahuwah or deep sleep of Yahuwah. That makes more sense. All right, so that's actually it for adjectives from this page. So we're almost at 11 o'clock. We'll be ending shortly. And let's take a look here at adjectives for Akkadian, because remember, Akkadian is the close to original Hebrew. So the way it works in for adjectives, there's no dual for adjectives, but there's like for the word for strong, dan, it has case endings, im, am, and utum, utim, and atum, atim, atam, atum, and atim. So now remember, Akkadian is using the same basic forms as Hebrew, but just with slightly different endings. So take a look at this for a sec. Okay, so now shar means king in Akkadian. It's equivalent to the Hebrew word for prince. So it's the word prince, but it means king in Akkadian. Sarum or sharum, sharim, sharam. Sharum or sharam means king as a subject. The subject who's doing the verb. Accusative, sharam, is an object. If someone else is doing the verb to the king. In genitive, something belongs to the king, sharim. Just like in Hebrew, Hebrew does not have any endings to mark it as masculine. The same thing. It just has the case ending. See the feminine? The feminine has the same case ending. Or and im, and am. But what does the feminine have that the masculine doesn't? It has that feminine marker, the feminine ending. So sharaf is princess or queen. Sharathum is the subject queen. The queen is doing the verb. Sharatam is the queen is something else is doing a verb to the queen. Then sharatim, something belongs to the queen. So again, it's the same exact form as the masculine, except it has aleph tav added at the end of the word and before the case. And then we take a look in for the plural, and what do we see in the plural? For queen, it's sharatum and sharatim. So we go here. So basically what we're seeing is okay, so that's singular. Whoops, sorry. Versus plural. So that's plural in Hebrew for feminine. So sharoth or sharuth is queens or princes, princesses, and sharath or sharith is queen or princess. So in Hebrew, the singular ending for feminine is just a T, whereas the plural ending is a UT. But how is it pronounced? It could be pronounced as sharath, or it could be oth, or oath, or uth. I said it uth, but just keep in mind that the oth could also be. And here we have sharith. So it's like an I sound or an ah. So you take a look and you see it has a different sound for singular versus the plural. Which so see this right here. The plural is wa, ah. But the singular, it doesn't have the same ah sound. It has a different ah, which implies that it's a different form, and that's reflected by the Hebrew, where in Hebrew, tav only is the singular. And remember, I said between two consonants, I or a can be supplied. So therefore, there's the only consonant added is tav for the feminine singular. But when it's feminine plural, wa and tav are added, just like it is in Hebrew. But now take a look at the masculine and feminine for adjective. Well, okay, take a look for the masculine noun for the plural. it has sharu and shari, right? So those are the plural forms, they say, for masculine. But when it comes to an adjective, it takes different forms. So instead of being the same as the noun, like take a look. For the masculine and feminine, the forms are the same as the noun, the regular noun. Danum would be the same if it was a noun or an adjective. Same for feminine. Danatum. But where it starts to differ is in the plural. Whereas the plural is the same for the feminine, the masculine takes the same oat ending. It takes ut. This is a with a line over it, t, and this is u with a line over it, t. What that tells us is that there was a similar form. So what we're having here is, let's see. So Dan would be the masculine, and then Danith would be the feminine. However, because there's case endings in Akkadian, oops. And yeah, so those are the singulars for subject. When it becomes object, you add a in the original Hebrew. And when it's genitive, when it belongs to something else for the singular. But then what we have is, it appears to be that tav is also added in the, oops, yeah, okay. So tav is added in the plural for masculine. So you have danutam. So take a look here. Saru, and the U is the same here and here. It's the same U sound. So it appears to be the case that the plural for adjective masculine is also watav, whereas the feminine is watav. I keep doing that. Okay, but they look the same, right? Whereas Akkadian pronounces them differently. So, so I would argue that they actually had a different form originally, but then they became combined early on for Hebrew. But let's see here. How will we render this to make a distinction? We might just get rid of the wa, maybe, or let's see. Like, I don't know the best way to render this for you guys to show the distinction between masculine and feminine, because both have the wa, but they're being pronounced differently. And in Akkadian, they're being spelled differently. But in the Hebrew, they're being spelled the same. So So basically, the reason I'm mentioning all this is because there's a few words in Hebrew which are actually going back to the Akkadian adjective. And that would be, for example, the feminine word fathers. So let me share with you guys. So the word for fathers should be, if it was following correct rules of grammar, for a noun, it would be abim. And that is the case. That's how it is in Akkadian, abim. That's the plural for fathers. But the plural adjective for fathers is abutim. And so that's in Akkadian, the plural adjective. In Hebrew, fathers is just abut. It's not abim like it should be. It's just abut. But that's because it's using this adjective from the original Hebrew, the Akkadian. And so abut means fatherhood. That's the adjective meaning, fatherhood. So abim means fathers, and abut means fatherhood. But early on, over time, they started preferring fatherhood to be the plural form for the word for the concept of fathers. So in Hebrew, they started calling fathers fatherhood, like just like the brotherhood. Like, let's say the brothers greet you. Instead, they say the brotherhood greets you. So in the same way, we got something going on with fathers. So the original for fathers is abim or avim, but fatherhood is avut, and avut is actually the form that's used in Hebrew. But over time, the etymology gets forgotten, and instead it now is used to mean fathers instead of fatherhood, like it originally meant. So words change over time their meaning, just like in any language. But that's the etymology there. All right, Walter left, but he said he had to go. I appreciate Walter for coming on. And we're getting pretty close to the end here. So I would probably distinguish these by making there really is no easy way to distinguish this. Maybe what I would do for distinguishing purposes is put two was. Or maybe do a because see, let's use hold on. So this is feminine, and then this is why is it doing this? Why is it doing the that ending? I don't want that ending. So feminine singular, feminine plural. Then you have let's see. Okay, masculine. And then the masculine plural. And the original Hebrew would be probably this. But for the adjective, it would be oops. Adjective would probably be plural. Because see, look, the way it's rendered, it looks the same exact as the feminine, even though it's pronounced differently in the Akkadian. So how would we render this? Um, there's no easy answer for this. I'm going to have to ponder on this because I want to write this in the document to make it clear for you guys. But I don't know. For now, let's just say like it's a different pronunciation, right? So like two W's versus one or something like that. Anyways, uh, the original, so the adjective has the OT or the UT, just like the feminine ending. And so that's the confusion why the word fathers in Hebrew, even though it's masculine, it has a feminine ending, but that's because it's not a feminine ending. It's actually the archaic masculine adjective. So is there anything further about adjectives for this? Yeah, see abotum from father, abum, abotum is paternity or fatherhood. Okay, so one other thing to tell you guys before we end this is that there are So just like in how I said for regular words, you have the the noun comes first and the adjective comes second typically. Like good person is person good, right? Well, it's similar to certain words in Hebrew with suffixes. So sometimes you can add suffixes at the end of words, and those are basically like, those often have adjective value. So you could postfix the letter mem, suffix the letter mem or m, and that gives it often an adjective type of meaning. So keep in mind it's also actually a way to form a type of adjectives is by adding it at the end, because like we said, adjectives come after the noun. Therefore, if you're adding a suffix, it in some sense is functioning as an adjective to the root meaning. And let me pull up that one document that I've had before that I've showed you guys. One of the videos we did. Whoops, what am I doing? Books. All right, so let me zoom back in for you guys. Or not. Let me share the screen again, I mean. All right, so we take a look here. We'll zoom in. So we're looking for postfix. Postfix forms the collective noun. Okay, for y, it's postfixed or suffixed. Yod at the end signifies a like individual type of thing. So it denotes a national name like Hebrew, Canaanites, basically the ite ending. Israelite, Canaanite, Mennonite, all the different ites. We say ite in English. In Hebrew, we say ite or e. It's the same meaning, just it's I in Hebrew and it's ite in English. So a Hebrew, it'd be like a Hebrewite or a Hebrew, Canaanite or Canaanite, and then also like you're saying third, fourth, you're also saying the I and E sound. So you know how I said to you guys that just like adjectives follow the noun, so also a suffix can function as an adjective in that sense because it follows the noun. Well, the same thing works for prefixes, where just like in Hebrew, you have one word followed by another, and that makes a construct, something of something else. That's how some of these prefixes work. Like the prefix for mem. See right here, the root word here is gan, which means to protect. It's the verb protect or protection. But when you add mem at the beginning, shield, it means shield. But what it's literally saying is instrument of protection, because the mem at the beginning basically means like instrument or root or source of protection. So a shield is a source of protection. So that's why the word gan is protect, but magen or migan is source of protection, aka a shield. Similarly, the word sacrifice is zabe, but the word for altar is mazba, and that means source of sacrifice. What's the source of a sacrifice? An altar. That's where you do the sacrifice. That's the source of your sacrifices, on the altar. So just like the prefix comes before, and it's the prefix of the noun, in the same way that construct nouns work, where a noun is of something else, and the same thing for adjectives. At the end, they come after, and so the suffix is a adjective transformation sometimes for the noun. So, for example, we have redemption. You know how we have ION? Well, Hebrew has, instead of ION, it has UM. UM. So UM basically kind of means like ION in a sense. Sometimes. So we have redemption and redeem. So redeem is pade or pade. Redemption is padiom. The signifies the shun part. You have day, you have yamim, which means daily. Day is yam, but yamim is by day or daily. Then you have kind or gracious or grace, and that's han. But gracely or gracious is hanim. And similarly, truth is amen or amen, but truly is amenim. And vain is riach, but vainly is riacham or riachim. So it functions as an adjective in that sense. Or an adverb, depending if it's, how it's being used. But here we have okay, postfix, it's forms many nouns, and it actually means something along the lines of like I think it means something along the lines of EST, because you have El Elyon, and that means God highest or most high, highest, the on. So you have on ending. So you have, if you have the word to remember, zakar, zakaron is most memorable or something, and it basically means a memorial. And same thing about, actually, I think it means, instead of S, I think it means more like totally or completely. So you have, high, completely high, highest, but remember is like to fully remember. So it's like a memorial, to commemorate. And then inebriate or drink is shaker, but shakarun is fully drunk or, completely drunk. That's drunkenness. And then we have, so that's basically it. So sometimes these letters can be added at the end of words to transform the meaning similar to an adjective.
Onieh,
Yeah.
we have some different words around here for when you're all the way drunk.
What's that?
I can't tell you.
Tell me on Facebook. Anyways, that's pretty much it, guys. That's the extent of adjectives. So I think we're getting to a point where we're now going to start doing verbs. So do you guys have any thoughts, any questions before we end this?
I'm sorry I outbursted. I just feel like at least one outburst is necessary.
No problem.
Okay.
So I'm going to share a PDF file I did not share earlier this week. It's going to be the update of what we did Monday. So I need to send that. I'll send that to the group chat. And then I'll see you guys Monday. So hope you guys have a great week, great Shabbat weekend, and I appreciate.
Talk to you about that.
What's that?
I want to talk to you about that after you're done recording this or whatever.
Okay. Well, hope you guys have a great weekend, and see you guys